Reciprocal. Oh, and now we are recorded, so that's good because I got that word wrong. Okay, we also have a few important upcoming events to mention. Please visit. Oh, there we go. Please visit our chamber calendar on newmarketchamber.ca for more details. I would now like to have Adam Sapelsa jump in to provide a chamber update. Go ahead, Adam.
Sure thing. Thanks very much. So I know we were all talking about it prior to the call, but yeah, the first stage of the reopening has been announced. So we're not quite there yet. Obviously, it starts on Friday, but the stay-at-home order that we had previously expired on June 2nd. So from a business perspective, that doesn't actually mean a vast amount. It just limits any sort of legal risk that you have. But it does move us to does put us within striking distance of the first stage of the roadmap to reopen, which has obviously now been tied to the vaccination rates. So that is as of Friday. So the key changes that we're expecting on Friday is that essential retail is going to be able to open back up to 25% capacity. Non-essential is going to be able to reopen to 15%. Outdoor dining is going to go up to, well, reopen, you can have up to 4 people outside. I'll post the background that the Ontario government gave out, which just gives the full sort of sector by sector breakdown. So that's obviously very good news. And if rates and case numbers continue trending the way they are, stage 2 could occur by July 1st, just because it's broken up in 3-week stages. And then potentially the third stage would be at some point towards the end of July. So we'll keep an eye out there and hopefully have more good news in the coming weeks. Okay, so just a couple of other things. The only running provincial program at the moment is the SEEP SB program, which is being run by the OEB. It's essentially a program that allows businesses and nonprofits to save on their energy costs. So there were amendments made to that as of the 1st of May, which means that customers can now save up to $1,500 for electricity and natural gas bills. And there's also at present no deadline to apply for this, so it's open. It's a program that if you haven't had a chance to look at it, it is well worth it. So on the federal side, there's not a massive amount because we're still waiting for the budget to be approved. But if it is approved, there is a program called the Canada Recovery Hiring Program, which will be retroactive as of Monday. So that was June 6th. It's essentially a transitional program to enable businesses, to both rehire and hire new workers to sort of support the economic bounce back. It'll provide eligible employers with up to $1,121 per employer, and it runs between June 6th and November 20th, 2021. So as I mentioned, once that receives royal assent, it will be retroactive to June 6th. And it's essentially just a transitional program from the wage subsidy to sort of encourage companies to essentially grow over the latter half of the year. So again, once the details of that are announced, because we are expecting that budget to be approved, we will share that, just because that does sound like a very worthwhile venture. Okay, that is everything that I had on my end. So thanks very much. Back to you, Shauna.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, there we go. So I just want to mention before we move on to our big presentation and Pat introducing Mayor John Taylor, that we also have a new member in attendance today, Alexander R. Levy of Hauser, Henry, and Siren LP. So that's fantastic to see new faces. I'd now like to give the reins over to the 2021 Breakfast Series sponsor, Pat Lusink with the Best Western Voyager Place Hotel, to introduce our speaker this morning.
Well, thank you very much, Shauna. Good morning, everyone. I'm thinking that everyone's feeling a little happier looking at towards the end of this week. I know here at the Best Western, we are certainly looking forward to having things opened up. It's been a very long time, and our occupancy is still pretty horrible, but better than it was in January. And we look forward to getting things open so that people can travel, so that groups and meetings and training events can happen. As well for us, weddings are a huge, huge business for us from the spring into the fall. Not that we host weddings, but we hope that we host groups of people who are staying here. And that has obviously just been decimated. But what we have been doing during this sort of down period is really ensuring that the cleanliness of our hotel has been stepped up, doing lots of deep cleaning, a lot of maintenance projects as well. We also have the added competition of 2 new hotels in the area. So we're going from about 300 hotel rooms approximately in the Newmarket area to having 2 hotels in Aurora. One's already open with over 100 rooms. That's the Holiday Inn Express in Aurora. And then the Microtel, which is like a mere 500 meters away from that hotel. So that's going to be interesting for them, I think. That is slated to open at the end of August. Whether or not it's going to be delayed again, I don't know. But lots of competition, and we know that we have to keep our customer service levels as high as possible, our cleanliness, keeping things maintained, and obviously putting the safety, health safety of our guests and our staff first and foremost. So when things do start to open up, if anybody would like a tour of our hotel, I'm more than happy to do that. We have 5 meeting rooms and we have 97 guest rooms. And now on to my real task of the day, and that is to introduce Mayor John Taylor. Of course, this group of people probably really doesn't need a real introduction. Everybody knows who he is. But I just wanted to I was thinking back to how long I've known the mayor, and I knew him before he was mayor. I think I met him about 14 years ago. I was working at the Chamber of Commerce with the Smart Commute program. And that's when we first had our first bike to work day, the town of Newmarket and the Chamber of Commerce together with Smart Commute. And that was back in 2007. And I just wanted to point out that John was amazing. He was on the planning team for the Bike to Work Day right from the get-go, and it was very near and dear to his heart. And he always came to the table every year when we started our planning. He always came with lots of great creative ideas that he tasked us to do. But that was okay. We appreciated his thoughtfulness and his ingenuity, and I'm sure that he is still using those creativity skills today. As the mayor, and especially coming into this period now where we're opening up, so I'm sure he's using those skills, and maybe he will enlighten us today with what great ideas he has and what he sees Newmarket will be doing as we start opening up. So without further ado, I am very pleased to introduce Mayor John Taylor as our guest speaker today.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's pretty neat when you're in a call like this. It reminds me that we're still a small town in so many ways and at heart, because I know almost everybody on this call by first name. And I would encourage people, please call me by my first name. I prefer it immensely when you see me out and about or anywhere. Yeah, I was laughing, Pat, when you said that about the ideas. I sent an email this week to our senior staff team, and the topic, what's that line called? The topic line or whatever. The topic line I wrote in it, and it was from me to senior staff, was, "Oh no, the mayor has another great idea." ... Yeah, I'm still good at coming up with ideas, but they do have to somehow be executed if they're to be realistic or helpful. But anyway, lots to talk about for sure, right? I mean, we've been through this for so long now, and I've been on a number of chamber calls, and when they made that announcement, and I was kind of expecting it, it was welcome for a second reason, because of course everybody's in a better mood when that happens. So we're all in a fairly good mood today. We've had a couple of calls where we've had announcements that weren't as welcomed, and that had a bit slightly different feel to the whole call, but that's fair enough. It's been such a roller coaster and such a journey. I don't think any of us have gotten our heads around how we're going to feel or look back or think about this in a couple of years, hoping and assuming we're looking back and thinking about it in the past tense, which heaven forbid we're not. But it's an amazing thing, and I marvel. I think about it sometimes. The parts of this journey that we're still yet to even explore or understand, the impacts, both positive and negative, that we're going to uncover and people are going to write papers about for years to come. But certainly the core of it is about the resiliency and strength of individuals and of partnerships and of a collective, of a town or a community or sub-communities. And it's been nothing less than phenomenal to witness Newmarket go through this and to watch individual acts of kindness, people reaching out to help in different ways, people sacrificing their own financial well-being, time and energy to support others. It's been bumpy, but it's been inspirational to watch. And I hope everybody else feels that way and takes that from it. It's not been perfect, and there's not been, I'm sure anybody who spends time on social media knows it's not all roses and sunshine, but it's been an incredible experience to watch the community respond and to watch people often quietly respond in ways that are so meaningful, reaching out to isolated seniors, supporting the food bank, just supporting a neighbor, thinking about how to creatively celebrate events, how to deal and struggle through a family crisis or death. These things have changed us in ways I don't think we're going to understand fully for many, many years to come. But to get on with the things and just talk a little bit about what's happening in my view right now, where we're at, where we've been, where we're going. I'll start off with the good news, which is the last reporting cycle, which was yesterday. Newmarket had 0 new cases, and we're down to 20 active cases. So, that is a significant decline from even just 2 or 3 months ago, right? March, we were so much higher. York Region, for example, if you look at that, 25 new cases yesterday in all of York Region, 1.2 million people. And in March at its peak, there were 564 new in one day. So from 564 down to 25. And Ontario is obviously trending in the right direction. Yesterday, 525 new. Here's the number I encourage everybody to keep your eye on, and that's the R value. So the R value, when the numbers were climbing, so basically when the numbers are climbing, the R value is over 1. If the R value is 1, that's R is reproductive value. If it's 1, that means for every case, it spawns 1 more case. And 1.2, it sounds like, oh, just a little higher. It's a lot higher. You'll get exponential growth. Well, right now we're at 0.75 Ontario-wide. So you're going to get exponential decline. And that's where we want to be. And of course, we want to see it get better and better. But so that R value really will tell you, if you watch it, where the numbers are going to be in a week or 2 or 3. If that number stays at 0.75 or lower, the numbers will keep going down and down, as will the R value. And so that's really reassuring news. Of course, we've got to remember we're now seasoned veterans at this. We've been through this cycle once before. This is the end of the flu season. We're going into the summer. So flus and COVID-19 essentially is a flu, cycles out at this point, right? To a degree on its own. Now that COVID is much more tenacious and the variants are much more tenacious. So it needed, all of the public health guidelines and vaccinations to help us get it even to a 0.75 and get us down on this right path. So it's not a reason to be complacent, and it's not just the flu cycle, but we are enjoying the flu cycle. So the good news there is I think the chance of this, any kind of resurgence or 4th wave through the summer is close to nil. So that's very good news, but keep in mind that the variants are quite dominant. The UK and India variant are very present, and they seem to be captured largely, although not as fully, but largely by the vaccinations. But that's where we've got to make sure we focus on vaccinations, right? So South Lake's numbers are great. Right now, they only have 12 COVID patients in the hospital. I've seen that as high as 50, 60. So that, and that's really important, right? I mean, we've got to remember all the time that South Lake is our most important community asset. It has been there for all of us, probably in one form or another. Many of us were either born there, or we had children born there. We've had family, loved ones treated there, et cetera. And so South Lake's been there for us year in and year out, and we need to be there for them. So we need to watch those numbers and consider their numbers as well as our numbers, our community numbers, and make sure that they're not overwhelmed and that they feel they can manage. to take care of us, frankly. And so always try to keep an eye on South Lake's numbers as well. But that leads us to vaccination. So that's the more interesting topic of the day. Again, lots of reasons for good news there. Newmarket, or Canada now is in the second country in the world for first vaccinations, second only to Israel. We're much further down the line when it comes to second doses, but the science seems to tell us that this extension that we've encouraged to get first doses up is very supportable. And as long as we roll out second doses through the summer, that will work quite effectively, and we will probably find ourselves in the very top by the end of the summer of very top echelons of countries with second doses. So that's great news. But it comes with a caveat too, and this is where I would want everybody to sort of think about and turn their attention to for the coming, for the approaching fall. There's a real pot, and this is not me trying to scare people into good behavior or anything. I'm just telling you what I've heard from our medical officer of health and the science table. But there is a real possibility of a fourth wave in September, October. Flu season comes back. And depending on the variants and the evolving efficacy of the vaccinations, we could look at that in the fall. You know, we need to do absolutely everything we can to avoid that. And I'm obviously talking to the converted, because small businesses, businesses of any nature, cannot fathom the thought of stepping backwards from where we are right now again. And we want to do absolutely everything we can to achieve that. And the answer to that lies in vaccinations. So again, good news is York Region is a leader in Canada in terms of vaccination numbers. We're ahead of, I think, any jurisdiction I'm aware of. There's some that are very close to us, even in the GTA. But so we're now just over 75% of adults over 18 vaccinated, and over 73% of those 12 years of age and up vaccinated. Those are great numbers. But that 75% number tells a good story and a challenging story. It's a great story. We got there very quickly. The challenging part of that number is this. I think it's safe to say that we'll never surpass 90, right? There's probably 10% of the people who simply won't take the vaccine. They're either vaccine hesitant or they've got a medical reason, et cetera. So that's probably the cap. But at the same time, Dr. Kurji and other medical experts believe that if we want to feel really confident going into the fall, and that's not even sure, that's just really confident, we want to hit 85. We're at 75. But at 75, it's slowing down. If you watch that number week in and week out, it's not changing dramatically. So the whole focus, and I moved a motion at York Region Council last week asking for the Medical Office of Health to bring back a presentation to us on how York Region was going to participate with other levels of government to address vaccine hesitancy. And I know this can be a touchy subject if you're, and there could be somebody in this call who's vaccine hesitant. And if you are, you think, well, I don't want government telling me what to do, or I don't want my neighbors pressuring me, et cetera. But the difference between 75 and 85 could significantly impact people's lives and your businesses. At 75, I'm not so sure we don't have a fourth wave. At 85, I'm fairly confident we don't. So the numbers, and after all of this, we've hit 75, we're never going to surpass 90 in all likelihood. So it's all about 75 to 85. And if we only just inch past 75, there's reason for concern. If we get up to 85, there's probably a reason to feel very, very good. So I'm not trying to depress people, but I think it's, knowledge is power. And I think knowing that, so we will be doing a fair bit at the region. I think all the towns will participate. And we've got to find a way to not be pointing fingers and pressuring people, but providing education and encouragement as much as we possibly can. I mean, we need to remember that through this, the tenser moments of when we need to remain kind and open to everybody's having an opinion and a thought and a voice. But that doesn't mean we neglect our responsibility as a public health board on which I sit to advocate to try to get people vaccinated. It's extremely important. So that's kind of the challenge that lies ahead of us, right? We've just hit this great milestone. We're a lot of first doses. The R value is way down. We're going into a lovely summer. Many of us are going to sit on a patio on the weekend or stand outside on the rail because we didn't get a seat and just look longingly inwards. But the key is that we've made a ton of progress. We're going to have a very, very good summer, I believe, and a very enjoyable summer. And we just want to do as much as we can to avoid challenges in the fall. And so I wouldn't be surprised if you see, in fact, I'd be surprised if you didn't see a renewed call for everybody to be reminded about the requirements of the medical office, social distancing, mask wearing, et cetera. It's still there right now, of course, but we know people are getting a little less vigilant. With an R value of 0.75 and 0 new cases, that's probably not the end of the world. Don't get me wrong. We need to still do it. But come the fall, there'll be a renewed campaign to see that stepped up again, because we need to go into that fall strong and make sure that not one business has to step 1 foot backwards and lose any of those hard-fought gains. So we'll keep plugging away in that direction. So vaccine hesitancy it will be a challenge. And of course, we've got this new concept of just discovering called vaccine pickiness. But luckily in Canada, it looks like we have the luxury to be a little bit vaccine picky going into the summer. And so I think there are reasons for some people to want to choose one vaccine over another. And as long as the supply is there, that's great. I'd rather see somebody go and get what they want as long as they get it. So that doesn't seem to be a huge problem. Then I would say that, we're now, it's time to start to enjoy all our hard work through this winter. So the town of Newmarket's moving as quickly as we can to open our facilities as much as we can. Things like the pool will be open early next week. We couldn't quite react to the announcement quick enough for this Friday. I don't think we're trying, and we'll be opening other facilities as well. And we'll try to be really creative again and try to help people host events outside if they need to. If it's a business that does something and they want to stream it, can we put it on our outdoor stage or something like that? So the one thing I would say to everybody here is if you're thinking of something and there's a way the town can support you, please let us know, because we want to support everybody to succeed as they rebuild and come out of some of these challenging times. There's, obviously small businesses, there's different rules, but 15% in general. And then there's other levels for depending on where you fit in. Patios are opening 3 weeks away at most to other things happening. Of course, a big conversation has been school graduations. I was really proud of the town that we kind of stepped up and said we would offer to host a centralized site for all graduations in the town of Newmarket. We haven't got final word on it, but I'm not sure the school board feels it can necessarily accommodate that. I hope they do. That's one of the reasons we did it. I think these kids need something. They need something to be excited about. They've had a long, hard winter as well. And of course, we would do it to small groups in safe manners, distanced, with circles on the lawns, et cetera. But if not, everybody, I'm sure, will find a way to celebrate those kids and make sure they have a great summer. And camps will be back on. There'll be modified camps in the town of Newmarket, but kids will be able to go to some camps again. And so I think and I think of my own children being 11 and 13. They've had a long, hard winter. They really have, and I think it's time for them to really enjoy the summer and just have some fun. So we'll continue to open all of our facilities. We'll continue to do everything we can to support the business community, no matter what it takes, within our means, and partnering with other levels of government. So I won't go over everything we've done, but we've done some great programs over the last year. I think some of them have to be brought back and continued. Obviously, we work with the chamber in partnership on everything. And so whether it's the business concierge program, because I think you're going to find that as the blanket, let's call it blanket, it's not perfect, but the blanket funding model starts to subside, you're going to see very targeted funding options and opportunities. And that's going to need probably some businesses will need some assistance with that. And I know the chamber and the town will be ready to support that. The business mentorship program, I'd like to believe we can keep that going and think about that. If you want an experienced entrepreneur or business person to provide you some idea feedback, somebody to bounce ideas off of, we want to keep that going. I think it's going to be incredibly important this summer and beyond to refocus on the Shop Local program. I've said this before. I think the difference between an effective Shop Local program, where the chamber and the town and the community of BIA are working together, can be a game changer from one community to the next. You're talking about the potential to keep significant revenue in your community. And this is a time where we need to ask our community and say to them, look, if you can keep your revenue here, you need to find a way to do it. These businesses are not, just because everything looks good a week or two from now, oh, they've got some customers in their store, everything's good. You know better than I do. Many of you are dealing with lost revenue of a year, year and a half. And it's going to take time to build back to stability and to the point where you can start saying, and now I'm really moving forward again and making up for lost ground. So I really want to, the town and the chamber, et cetera, to work together and really put a big emphasis on shop local again. People can make those choices more than they do. And sometimes a good friendly reminder can go a long way. And I think we can really, it's probably one of the biggest things we can do to support all of you as you sort of go into this time where you can start to provide all those services and goods. So we'll keep doing that. We're going to look at things we've done, and some of them we're going to stick with, right? But we will do that through consultation, some of the programs, some of the fees, et cetera. But we've done a lot. We did one example was our water wastewater waiver of $1,000 for a small business that was in its own building. The water wastewater wasn't as super flexible, but it allowed us to reach a lot of businesses and provide meaningful relief. And we want to continue as a town to target any dollars we feel we can allocate, to not allocate them broadly, $50 per household in Newmarket, which is not meaningful, but target them to those who need the most, like small businesses, and make it a meaningful amount. And that's what we did in the last budget, and we want to keep thinking that way. I think the important thing here for us, like you, and this is where I'll try to start to wrap up, but I've said to the staff team here throughout this, and council has emphasized this throughout, is that we need to, it is easy, and everybody's experienced this, to let COVID take over, right? And of course, you have to pay attention and you have to respond and react and put in place the protocols and do everything we have to do and play defense a lot. But we have to keep playing offense as well, and we have to keep moving forward. And so it's essential that we continue to move Newmarket forward. What makes Newmarket an amazing place to live and a great place for you to have a business and grow a business is that it's a place people want to be, that it's got great public spaces, that people want to locate their lives and their businesses here, and that it's got a strong local economy. And so we need to not forget that. We got to think 3, 5, 8, 10, 20 years out so that we keep moving that, and Newmarket is got a growing reputation as a place where things are happening, that's innovative, it's partnership based, and we just have to keep that moving forward. So, Newmarket is, and the council has decided we're going to keep going forward. This year, we're going to open a new splash pad that's going to be a fully accessible splash pad, fully accessible to any ability, a child with any ability level. There's a skate park will start construction shortly at the Magna Center. It'll be a brilliant skate park. So for anybody with young, teenagers, et cetera, this is going to be a new site, and maybe a few less of them will go to the Riverwalk Commons. We're expanding trails in the next year and two all over in different parts of town. And we're just getting in some of the early work on council strategic priority to design and then start to build out the Mulock Trail. So think of the Tom Taylor Trail running the full length of Mulock, obviously east-west. So we have the north-south and the Tom Taylor. Now this would be a full east-west off-road multi-use path. This will be a game changer, and it'll take a number of years. 4, 5, 8 years to build out. It's a big project, and Tom Taylor Trail took 30 years. It will be a significant asset. Think of what that multi-use path will connect. It'll connect Harry Walker, where there's employment, of course, but it'll connect the Newmarket Theatre, the Magna Center, Newmarket High, the town offices, the future GO train station. It'll connect essentially Mulock High. It'll connect the new Mulock Farm and just so much more, right? So it'll be a major connector for pedestrians and cyclists, and it'll intersect with the Tom Taylor Trail. And so we're very excited to see that move forward. And of course, you're not going to catch me in a setting like this not talking about the Mulock Park. We have a meeting this afternoon to move forward the budget on the Mulock Park. This is probably one of the most significant meetings of the term. And I know Councillor Kwapis is thinking about it, and others, and we're getting ready. There's the budget. The budget is substantial. This is a $40 million park that we have proposed in front of us. And if that causes everybody to pause a little bit, it causes us to pause a little bit. But this is a generational investment. This park will stand the test of time 100 years from now. it is not paid for or supported by the taxpayer. This park is entirely funded from development charges and other development related sources. So we collect development charges, a substantial amount, from every unit that's built in the town of Newmarket in the past decade and the future decades. And there's government legislation that says you can charge certain amounts based upon your plans, your programs, and your historical building program per category. So there's a parks and recreation category. And you have to spend that money on that because it's meant to make sure you're putting in infrastructure for the growth that's coming. So if we have more multi-residential buildings built, then we have to make sure we build some parks for that. So a big central like park like Newlock will help to accommodate new residents. But of course, we're all going to get to enjoy the skating trail, the water features, the artist residency, the gardens, etc. But it is entirely financed that way. We have to spend that money on parks and recreation. It's part of the deal. It's part of the way it's collected. It's legislated. So this is entirely funded from those sources, not from property taxes. And we still have over 50% of our projected 10-year parks and recreation budget to spend on other parks and recreation amenities in town over the next decade as well. So we're going to see, and I mean this in all seriousness, a never before seen decade of investment in parks, outdoor spaces, trails, and recreation in the town of Newmarket. Because I think coming out of COVID, we all know that that's become more important than ever. And so the park is going to hopefully start construction in 2022, and it'll take about 3 years to full completion. And I assure you, everybody who walks onto those grounds once it's completed will be utterly amazed by the absolute gem of a space that we have in this community, and it will rival anything in Southern Ontario. So very exciting to do, but it's also daunting, and we take the responsibility seriously. We need to budget it responsibly, and we need to design it and execute it properly because it's a major investment by the town of Newmarket. So finally, I want to finish, and sorry for going on so long, and this I'll try not to go on too long because I am passionate about this, but the Upper York. I think most of you are aware of the Upper York, so this gets a little boring in some ways because I'm about to talk about wastewater, but it's incredibly important for the town of Newmarket. The provincial government last week, and I'm asking, and I've spoken with the Chamber about this before, but I'm asking the Chamber to significantly involve itself in the advocacy related to this. Just recently, in the last few days, we received a letter explaining that the province of Ontario passed legislation that nobody knew about, was halting the environmental assessment for the Upper York and calling on an expert panel to review it. They're going to get feedback first on the legislation, then they'll form the expert panel, then the expert panel will study it for a year, and then of course the provincial election will be over, and then we'll get a decision. And I did say that a little bit in between because it's, I think, almost perfectly accurate. And I am frustrated. I'm going to try to contain my frustration. The environmental assessment for this project has been fully complete for 6 years, deemed fully complete by the province of Ontario under a former government who did not take action. The last step is just the minister's signature. We live in a country that welcomes new Canadians. We live in the GTA, which is one of the fastest growing population centers. It is the fastest growing population center in North America, or Canada and the United States. And that means wastewater. I'm sorry, but it does. And we have to manage it. The plant that York Region was proposing was within its watershed and environmental best practice, and it was the most advanced plant in Canada and the United States environmentally. And it's sitting in limbo. What that means is right now we have 160 persons worth of allocation. We'll have another 1,500 next year, another 1,000 after that because of a couple of small projects. We typically allocate and build add 1,000 people per year. That means in somewhere between 3 or 4 to 5 years, Newmarket will have no allocation. Aurora will be very similar, EG will be the same. Northern York Region will literally screech to a halt. And I know a lot of people will go, well, that's okay. I don't want more houses, and I don't want construction headaches, and I don't want more congestion on our roads. The fact of the matter is that means also no more affordable housing. That means no more starter homes for young people trying to start out. That means no more condos for seniors to downsize into. And frankly, as business people, you know, if you throttle, if you shut off the supply, what happens to prices? We've already got a crisis in housing prices. And we should be trying to build more capacity and increase supply to meet the demand And this does essentially the opposite. And it's frankly, there is only one reason this decision is not being made. It's because it's politically difficult. It's either got to go to Lake Simcoe where there's resistance, or it's got to go to Lake Ontario where there's resistance. And that is, when you're in government, you get issues and you know that some people are not going to be happy, but you have to make a decision. That's your responsibility. It's hard to make the right one sometimes, but no matter what, you have to make one and you have to keep things moving forward. So I'm just letting you know that, if anybody here, and I'm sure there's somebody has lived in a community previously that had 0% growth or negative growth, it's not great for business. It's not great for the local economy. It's not great for the municipal infrastructure, et cetera. And so we've built infrastructure. We've got the Viva Rapidways. We've got the Newmarket Park coming online. We've got some significant regional investments in roads. And that was because we're trying to build in advance of growth. And now we're being told we're just going to stop for now because it's hard to make a decision. Sorry for being so blunt, but I would like the chamber to get involved in this, and your membership should be very concerned about this. And everybody on this call should be concerned about this. It's not an easy decision. It's not a fun one. And who wants to talk about or care about wastewater? But at the end of the day, you can't grow a community. You can't grow your businesses. You can't grow the local economy without it. And so sorry to finish on a challenging or a negative note, but that is the most important issue facing our communities right now, full stop. So on the upside, the numbers are looking great. COVID's looking excellent. Patios are opening. Revenue is going to be starting to flow into most of your doors that hasn't been. And we're moving some amazing projects forward, like the skate park, the Newmarket multi-use path, and the Newmarket Park. But we've got to make sure two things to keep our eyes on: the fall flu season and vaccine numbers, and number two, Upper York. Those are the things I'm keeping my eyes on. And as a community and as a council, I know Councillor Quapis and council is also very focused on these things as well. So sorry for going so long. I will stop. Thank you.
No need to ever apologize, Mayor Taylor. We appreciate the update on everything. So we're going to open it up to any questions that people might have. We've got about 10 minutes. I know there's some in the chat, and I'll get to them. One thing, though, of course, people always think about and are wondering, plans for Canada Day. I'm sure there's been some conversation around that at the town, and what can we expect to see as restrictions lift and people are out and about more?
Yeah, that's a very tricky one because it's relatively soon. So I think so a couple of things. I think we're exploring a drive-in fireworks, and that won't be able to accommodate many people, but there are some families that are really, of course, desperate for things for their kids to do and things to do. So we're looking at that right now, and probably will pursue that. We need to have a conversation with some of the senior town staff, Councillor Quapis, myself, et cetera, to look at the possibility of not hosting events on the downtown, but perhaps shutting the street at least, so pedestrians can move more freely and the businesses and the patios can be supported with a little less, it's a catch-22. Do you create a crowd that's problematic or is concerning as we're still moving, we're still just getting to stage 2 potentially, or do you create more space so people aren't crowded on sidewalks and closer together? And it's 6.5, but we're working through some of that. But I don't think you're going to see large scale kinds of things occurring. I think probably this will be the nice part was that people will be able to have people in their backyards, and you'll see a lot of micro events in people's backyards. And we just really have to encourage people to keep in mind that just because you're allowed to doesn't mean you shouldn't worry about the social measures. COVID is still circulating in our community. So, you can sit in a backyard very easily with a chair 6 feet from the next person and have a great time. So if people keep thinking that way, there's lots we can do. But we're exploring some things that we can do to sort of celebrate and create that atmosphere, of course, with different events perhaps, but there'll be small things, and we'll be trying to do it in a way that avoids crowds to the degree we can. For anybody who saw the splash pad this week, you can see how crowds can form very quickly because people really want to get outside.
So you mentioned, the town getting some of the facilities reopened, but what's the plan with the Ray 20 complex then, with sports in the fall and winter and skating, but the town is still utilizing that space for the vaccine rollout? for, I would assume, several more months.
Yeah, so good question. So we are working. So first of all, for those who don't know, the vaccination center is run by Southlake and the town of Newmarket. The town of Newmarket runs kind of what you call the front of the house, and Southlake runs the back of the house. But it'll be transitioning shortly from Southlake over to public health. Public health usually runs vaccination centers. The demand was so massive during the pandemic that the hospitals were called on to support, and Southlake obviously did a brilliant job getting our community through that. But they need to get back and focus on what they do. So this will transition over to public health, and we're in conversations with public health that as the demand for vaccinations isn't as high, probably by October, for example, that we can start to look, and and I don't want to talk about sites, et cetera, but we're exploring alternate sites so that we can potentially and hopefully and almost certainly transition them out of that site so we can start to use the Ray 20, for example, for hopefully for things like hockey and figure skating.
One issue that was brought up this past week with confusion, and I see Dawn Gallagher Murphy from MPP Elliott's office is on, so she might be able to weigh in here, is the 15% capacity in retail. There are smaller retail stores. Vicky from Good Vibes is on right now, and a 15% might mean one person. But could 3 or 4 members of the same family come in? There just seems to be some confusion, and we've had that question asked. So I don't know if anybody has an answer to help guide, the businesses on what they're allowed to do.
Well, we can certainly get back to you on that, but I don't know exactly on that. But my experience has been is when I've not known something, I've called Dawn, and she's either known it or figured it out, because she's pretty good at getting to the bottom of things.
Yes, can I just interject? My concern is we're a very family-friendly store, and the parent may come with a couple of kids. If it's technically only one person, am I turning that person away, or am I expecting the parent to leave their children outside? So in the past, it's always been one person or one family group. So if a couple comes, or a parent with kids, or that kind of thing, they're allowed in because they're classified as one person. So I just need some understanding of, I don't want to say, oh, it's a one family group, and then bylaw shows up and gives us all a ticket.
Yeah, no, we can find that. I honestly don't know the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
My experience in the past, though, is it's pretty much about the numbers. But of course, you've got to identify what your capacity is first, then to know what that number is. But if you wanted to send an email, Vicky, or I can follow up, some of my staff can follow up the chamber and try to get to the bottom of it.
Jen,
Dawn does have her hand up, so hopefully you can weigh in here, Dawn, and shed some light on it.
Well, what I have is regarding the reopening and restaurant restrictions, which I think can be transferred over to retail in that situation. I will clarify, however, from a restaurant outdoor patio situation, as you know, it is a maximum of 4 people at a table. However, more if everyone is from the same household plus one person who lives alone or a caregiver. So that being the case, I would have to say, in the sense of Good Vibes, because I know your store, if you've got a family from the same household and there's 3 of them from the same household, 3 of them from the same household coming in is okay. It's what happens if somebody from somebody else comes in. Can you still maintain 2 meters apart? Because that is the caveat here, that people at different tables are at least 2 meters apart, or there is an impermeable barrier like plexiglass. So that's what I can tell you. For confirmation on retail, I'm pretty sure they're going to say it's the same thing. Members of the same household, yes. But beyond that, if that goes beyond your 15% capacity, then no. So happy to follow up and send something to Jennifer.
I was just going to say, Dawn, if you can clarify, and then we can let.
So for us, 15% capacity is one person. So is that one person or one family group? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, perfect. All right.
That person it's a husband, wife, and a child.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Then that's one household they're coming in. It's if somebody, an absolute stranger customer comes, then they would have to wait.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure.
Situation.
And that's okay. All right.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I appreciate the clarification.
No problem.
Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate that too. And now, Dawn, did you have anything else that you wanted to add in terms of an update from the office?
Well, our office just officially opened this morning, and that's why I'm a little bit late, because I was having to re-hook up all my computer and I wasn't sure how that would go. So not much to tell you except we're reopening on Friday, and that's wonderful news. And I'm really excited about it. And when I was speaking with MPP Elliott yesterday morning, she was the first one who told me, because I didn't even see the notice yet. And it was like, thank the Lord, hallelujah, we can start getting back to some type of new normal. So yes, there's a 21-day period, and wouldn't you know, the 21-day period based on June 11th will take us to July 1st. So does that mean we're going to see step 2 opening on July 1st or a couple of days just before? I don't know. We're very hopeful towards that. So no, I just wanted to reiterate that yes, we're reopening come this Friday morning. And from what I've been hearing, patios are getting very difficult to get a table for this weekend.
That's what we're learning. Yes.
Yeah. So if you haven't booked, you better hurry up, or you're going to be waiting for a bit. But in any case, all the best. And I reiterate the message from Mayor Taylor: shop local. That is definitely the provincial message, is to really shop local in your own towns, support your own businesses ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Another question, and I don't know that if you would have the answer to this, Mayor Taylor, if there's been any talk, is any thoughts on restrictions, municipally for people who aren't vaccinated when we get back to public events, public transit, and municipal travel? Obviously it's something that you have to keep on the table.
Yeah, so I mean, you can't say never, but certainly no. So far, it's not been seriously discussed. I think you're likely going to see some form of vaccine passport related to travel. That's obviously everybody speculated on that, and maybe large events. And we'll follow the lead of the provincial government and the federal government on some of those areas. But certainly I will say this: I still keep saying, and staff are watching for it. I'm still very, very hopeful that we can hold some sort of outdoor a concert event down at the Riverwalk, even if we have to have limited numbers and some distance, but anything that makes us feel like we're having a few of those things that make summer special. But I think that's yet to be seen. But I will say this: there's generally a hesitancy amongst most people I discuss, whether they're in public health or government, around requiring passports unless it's absolutely necessary deemed necessary by public health for safety within that circumstance. So that I think we're going to learn a lot more about that category in the months to come, but I think that those are yet to be fully explored.
Wonderful. We're going to try and squeeze in one round of networking. So any last questions for the mayor, or but before we get to that, I did just want to point out from the chambers, for those who don't know, we are still offering the free rapid antigen, the COVID rapid antigen tests out of the chamber. You can go to our website. They're free for any Newmarket business, 150 employees or less. So you can place an order and pick them up, and we're still taking orders. So if anybody didn't know about that program, it's on our website, and we encourage you. I think, yeah, Tyler's just put it in the chat. There's the link. So.
And there are still pickup times available for this Wednesday and Thursday. So if you want to get them,
perfect.
I'll be there on Wednesday and Thursday.
Good to know. And Dawn has something else to add?
Sorry, I should have mentioned this when I was talking about the restaurants, because I really like this. It might help getting yourselves that reservation at a patio, that as we're entering step one of the reopening, bars and restaurants will be able to open without restrictions to hours of operation. So as you know, they have been under restrictions of hours of operation. That is being lifted come this Friday. So I think that's that will be helpful for those who are trying to book on the patio. Thank you.
They'll have a few extra hours.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Dawn. Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Any note to leave us with, or as you wrap up?
No, just to say thank you to everybody for your incredible efforts through all of this and getting us to this point. Let's keep on the path of success, and please reach out individually if there's something you believe the town can do to support you. And we're in the mode right now of being creative and is doing everything we possibly can. So just reach out, but enjoy the summer. I think we all need an enjoyable summer. You know, just stay a little bit vigilant though. Remember, we've still got the fall to deal with. Hopefully we can get as many people vaccinated as possible, and we can just keep going from here. But you know, there's still going to be some interesting times ahead, but I think we're seeing some pretty strong reasons for hope. So again, Newmarket, you've been amazing. The business community has been incredibly resilient throughout this, and it just shows to me that the power of what we can do going forward as a town and as a community. I think there's some really great things that lie ahead in terms of us coming out of this stronger and stronger and stronger. Thanks very much.
I agree 100%. And for taking the time today and updating us. And also as a resident in Newmarket, I think we all feel that we have been proactive and that we're proud on the rollout and being ahead. So we've all taken note, and we thank the town and you for that. And with that, we have 4 minutes. I guess we'll do one round of speed networking. I'll throw it over to you, Tyler, and take it away for the last little bit of networking.